Okay, so we've decided to go a little podcast crazy. We have your recruiting podcast, which is known as the Unofficial 40. We've got your team podcast that Eddie, Joe, and I do. And now we've got an interview podcast that I wanted to do where I just set up interviews with interesting people, try and do it every week. And we're going to call this the Sooner Scoop Sit Down. And this week, we've got Jason Kersey, who is now a former OU beat writer, just left the Oklahoman. He is heading to Fayetteville, Arkansas to cover the Arkansas Razorbacks for a website called seccountry.com. And I wanted to talk to Jason before he left. Just he's been a big part of my professional life, just being on the beat and seeing him all the time, and became very good friends, and wanted to just kind of sit down with him and talk to him about his experiences of covering Oklahoma. And just some random things that we've talked about over the years. Twitter, Bob Stoops, the Oklahoman in general. And just kind of give you an insight into what it's like a little bit to live that OU beat writer life. So this is what we will now refer to as the Sooner Scoop Sit Down, featuring the former Oklahoma beat writer for the Oklahoman, Jason Kersey. All right, so what we're going to do today is we're going to talk. I don't know if we call this. Should we call this your OU beat writer exit interview?
I had an exit interview at the Oklahoman, but this can be
part two,
the funner exit interview.
It wasn't very fun.
It was just HR crap.
So when you do that, like, I don't want to get too involved or anything that's going to get you hateful letters or violate any kind of. Did you have to sign like a non-disclosure agreement about anything?
No, not really. It was just sort of a, hey, this stays in here, sort of thing. But no, there was no non-disclosure agreement.
Well, and for people that don't know what we're talking about, Jason Kersey, former Oklahoma beat writer, University of Oklahoma beat writer at the Oklahoman, He's leaving, as we've already had his going away party. There was a sombrero involved.
Yeah, and I understand you talked about that on the air the other day because my dad called me.
I don't remember talking about the sombrero, or did we? I mean, the pictures were out there. The Snapchats were out there.
No.
I think I just said that Eddie may have been pretty drunk and you may have been pretty drunk. I can't remember anything disparaging, though, that came up on the radio.
My dad just called me.
He's not like a preacher or anything.
No, but he just called me later that day. So I understand you had a good time on Saturday night. And I was like, what? He's not on Twitter. What do you... And he said, Kerry Murdoch was talking about it this morning on the radio.
Now, is your dad, is he like full-blown OU fan?
Yeah.
I know your brother is, right? You have a brother that is?
My brother's not so much anymore. He was.
Uh-huh.
My brother was the OU fan. We went to the 2003 Big 12 championship game debacle against Kansas State, and my brother was so pissed off that he got up and left his seat and in the late second quarter and didn't come back till the game was almost over.
Now, on your...
But not so much anymore. He's grown up.
See, the thing about that I'm going to enjoy about doing these kind of podcasts, and we're kind of trying to do like some one-on-one stuff where it's just me and a guest, is you'll find out, and having four guys in the morning kind of keeps this from happening a lot, but my stream of consciousness is just all over the place. So, I mean, I will be everywhere. Like, you were giving that answer, and I was thinking of taking it in a completely different direction. So I'm horrible about that, but I'm just very random. But I'm thinking, I want to get into some more of this stuff later on. We're just kind of setting the stage here because one thing I promise you and I kind of talk music a lot, and I don't know, have you ever gotten that into music with your readers on Twitter or anything like that?
Not really.
They've just kind of had to deal with us kind of, the other beat writers kind of needling you a little bit.
Right.
And what we needle you about... And I don't know where this started. I mean, you have to explain to me how I don't know, if fascination is not the right word, but you love Kelly Clarkson. Were you like a big American Idol watcher and You loved her and Justin. Did you watch the movie and stuff?
Well, I think my diehard love of Kelly Clarkson is a little bit exaggerated because when I was in high school, I liked Kelly Clarkson. I liked Since You've Been Gone. I liked that album. And I listened to it, but I never watched American Idol. In fact, I'm not even sure that I knew she was from American Idol when I started listening to her music. But and I really hadn't listened to her a lot when we went to that. You didn't go to that pre-Cotton Bowl party.
No, it's still one of the great regrets of my life.
You just saw the aftermath.
But no, there was a media party for the Cotton Bowl the year that A&M just crushed OU. And it was the night before the game?
Night before the game.
And Kelly Clarkson was playing. And this was discussed so much at your going away party. Garen Emig of the Tulsa World. I'm surprised you guys didn't get into a fight, to be honest, because he was saying some disparaging things about... Because we all know Kelly Clarkson has ballooned back and forth.
Yeah, it's kind of fluctuated.
So he had plenty of comments about the jeans she was wearing or leggings or whatever it was, jeggings. But I don't know if that was the first night you discovered Red Bull and vodka.
No.
But it was your letting. And I got to tell people this. I mean, you guys, there's two people I have the most respect for in the media business. I say this a lot. Like the TV people, they have to go out and shoot everything, and they're at high school games, and they're covering Thunder and OSU and OU and just everything. It never stops for them. So they work their asses off, even though you only see them. That's the strange thing. You see them two minutes a night on television, and there's so much work that goes on behind the scenes with them. And along with the TV reporters, I feel worse for the OU beat writer because... I should say the Oklahoman OU beat writer, because that's a very demanding job. I mean, it is a prestigious position.
Yeah.
You are basically the main reporter for the most read beat in the state. It's a very important job.
Yeah. Yeah.
And with that comes a lot of responsibilities.
Yeah, a lot of demands.
And at the Oklahoman, I don't want to say any names, and I'm not trying to direct anything at anybody, but the demands on you guys as beat reporters to be on top of everything, to never miss anything that's out there.
Yeah.
It's staggering. I mean, how much work. I mean, people talk about, what we do and being on top of recruiting, and a kid commits while you're at your wedding or something and you have to stop and, whatever. It's not that bad, but there are plenty of nights when you're out, with your wife or something breaks. And you have to grab your laptop and do something. I mean, it's an unrelenting job at times. So I'm just trying to set up to say every once in a while when you let loose a little bit, you deserve to let loose. And that was a night. It's the day before and people got to realize it's the day before the game. All your stuff is filed.
Yeah.
You don't have. It's one of the few times during the season that you really don't have any responsibilities or any worries.
Well, unless somebody got arrested while I was at the party, then you would have made the right decision to not go to the party.
I think I just didn't go because I had so much stuff we were still doing. And but all that being said, it was a glorious night after the concert when you came back to the hotel, because I was in the media room then.
Well, the other thing that I think has created this idea that I like Kelly Clarkson's at the top of every one of my Spotify playlists or something, which isn't true, is that so the night before that they had two parties in a row. They had another media party the night before that. Did you go to that one?
Was that the Media Olympics night or whatever?
Maybe but it was another sort of big away from the hotel.
I hate those. Yeah, and I don't do those. And there was no shuttle. You had to go on your own and stuff. It was like a block party kind of thing.
Little Big Town played. I don't even know anything about them, but I didn't go to that. Instead, I went to I think Babes and ate with Barry Trammell.
Yeah,
which is never a bad decision. That's a good place, but. Eric Bailey from the Tulsa World texted me that night and said, hey, this party is incredible. You're missing out. You got to go tomorrow night. They got Little Big Town here tonight, and apparently Kelly Clarkson's going to be there tomorrow night. And my response to his text was, man, don't judge me, but I actually really like Kelly Clarkson. And then by the time I got back to the media hotel, everyone had been told that I was like the biggest Kelly Clarkson fan in the world. And so I just sort of went with it.
But the whole thing is, though, we've always teased you about it, but you've never let down. Like, you always defend her.
She's good, man. I don't
have a problem with Kelly Clarkson. I really don't.
But yeah, it was Since You've Been Gone when I dropped my Red Bull vodka and shattered it on the floor at that concert.
And then it got turned into another fishtail, which was you were actually talking to Joe Castiglione at the time the song started.
No.
And you freaked out, and the liquor went flying.
Those are two different stories. I was standing with Bob Berry Jr., Dylan Buckingham, and Garin when Since You've Been Gone played, and I dropped it. And the thing about that is my favorite part of the story is how amazing this party was. I mean, there was food, open bar.
Cocktails big time.
There were cigar rollers there. There were guys rolling cigars there. And at this particular moment when I dropped the Red Bull vodka, and it was so loud in there that you couldn't hear it shatter, but so we all just sort of walked away from where it was, just sort of crept away, and out of nowhere this dude just emerges out of like a closet with a big broom and just swept it up, and then that was it.
It's like a robot in Wall-E or something.
And Dylan Buckingham handed me his Red Bull vodka and said, don't worry, I'll just go get another one. The Joe Castiglione story was
at
later
the same
in the
party.
night. It was at the same party later in the night when everyone, all my friends, I'm using air quotes, had left me there for some reason.
I think they thought that you were being taken care of by somebody.
And
somebody had your back.
And I wound up in a conversation with Joe Castiglione that I don't remember. So, I mean, I do not remember what we talked about.
But you said nothing ever really came of it, or he never said anything like,
no,
boy, you were weird last night or anything.
No. And in fact, I had breakfast with him a couple weeks ago, and he was great. We had a fine relationship. It was just sort of, I think about that, and I'm just like, I have no idea what I said, but I know the things that I was angry about at that time, various things, so I hope that none of those things were what I
will just say that if there ever was anything that happened in that conversation, you don't have to worry about it, because Joe Castiglione follows me on Twitter now, and I literally will check 2 or 3 times a week to see if he's unfollowed me.
And he hasn't yet.
And I asked him about it. I said, I noticed you're following me. And I want to apologize in advance. And he told me that I don't have to worry about it. He really enjoys my Twitter account, so I think Joe likes to see people let loose a little bit.
I enjoy your Twitter account too, Carey.
Well, we can get into that. All right, so I gave you. We were talking about music, and I know you're a big Counting Crows guy too.
Yeah.
Because we've talked about that quite extensively. We've even fought about which albums are the best. And I gave you...
You tried to ruin the concert for me last year, if you remember.
That's not true at all. I just told you why I don't like seeing them live now, which is that Adam Duritz goes off the page. He has to like sing the songs and change the melodies.
Yeah.
And I just want to hear around here like it's sang on the album, to be honest with you.
Well, the thing, you were right about that. He did that, but I noticed he did that way more with like the songs you can tell he sang.
The older songs,
5 million
stuff
times.
off
the stuff off
August and Satellites and all that stuff.
Like the stuff off the newer album.
He's singing it like it's
on the album, which I thought their newer album was awesome.
And see, I don't know how much further our musical tastes are compatible, because
no, I'm seeing a lot. I mean, I'm
really like my ultimate band is REM. Like I have everything. Like I just spent I'm trying to finish off my vinyl catalog of REM, and I just bought New Adventures in Hi-Fi and Up, which I didn't even really like Up as an album when it came out, but I paid $100 a piece for them. I mean, it's a sickness.
Yeah.
So, but that is kind of where my music starts, and Counting Crows are kind of part of that tree.
Right.
I mean, we're talking what would now be contemporary adult alternative, I guess, would be the genre. Mm-hmm. So you got like Counting Crows, Toad the Wet. I love Toad the Wet Sprocket. REM, of course, is in there. And then there's a bunch of, kind of college bands from the 90s that things like Buffalo Tom that most people don't know about.
I'm just seeing a lot of things on here, just scrolling through that. I mean, I love, obviously, Springsteen, Billy Joel, Black Crowes. Man, I love the Black Crowes.
Yeah, they've just started re-releasing a lot of their stuff on vinyl. I got to be honest with Billy Joel. I know Jake Trotter's a huge Billy Joel fan.
But
I don't want to offend the guy, but Billy Joel to me, do you like the movie Step Brothers with Will Ferrell and John C. Reilly?
I like that movie.
Well, the whole thing about Do What Billy Joel Sucks at the Catalina wine mixer, like that is so true. Like I hated Uptown Girl and all that stuff.
Well, I'm noticing a disturbing lack of Elton John on here.
I've only got a little bit. There's a little bit. But I mean, I bought Honky Tonk, whatever it is, because it has Mona Lisa and Mad Hatter, and it has
a good one.
Has what, Rocket Man? Is that on that one? No, that's Yellow Brick Road.
Oh, does it?
Or no, I think Rocket Man is on there.
Does it say? Yeah, Rocket Man's on there. Honky Cat's on there.
So I haven't delved into Elton John yet.
See, that was the big argument.
I do like him.
With me and Jake. When he worked at the paper,
Mm-hmm.
we went to the, Elton John and Billy Joel do those concerts together, which are great.
Yes, yeah.
And we went
to dueling piano things.
We went to one together, and we just got in crazy arguments about who was better. I don't even think it's a contest. I don't know how you can compare. I mean, Elton John is a legend.
Elton John's way better.
I mean, he's a legend. Billy Joel's really good, but Elton John's way better.
What happens is, I think with everybody, it's kind of like with Bruce Springsteen too. And I mean, John Bon Jovi proves it. And by the way, it is very disturbing that he murders children in that new video, that new commercial he has.
Which I must not have seen it.
The DirecTV commercial. He's talking about turning back time, and he just kills a little child in the corner.
Okay, I haven't seen that.
I'm gonna have to. We're gonna take a break to do some music, but I'm gonna show you what I'm talking about. But like, no, John Bon Jovi. It's a perfect example. Like artists from the East Coast, they're way overrated, way overhyped. It just, if you look, Billy Joel, Bruce Springsteen, who's good, but Grant, he has some total crap out there.
Yeah.
And John Bon Jovi had like 2 albums.
Yeah.
And they still sell out concerts in arenas in New Jersey.
Yeah, that's a good point. I like a couple Bon Jovi here and there.
I have Slippery When Wet, you'll notice.
But yeah. Sorry, I'm just...
But there's no red flags you see so far?
No.
Probably, I'm sure a lot of that stuff in there, you're like, who the hell is that?
Yeah, I'm some of that. Huey Lewis in the News, man. I like Huey Lewis in the News.
You're very mainstream. You are.
I am. I am.
You like your soft rock, I know.
Oh, definitely.
You talk about your Magic playlist and all that stuff.
Yeah, my KMGL playlist on Spotify. Which
is not a part of my radio family, but it's okay. It's a podcast.
Yeah, I get made fun of a lot for that by my wife, as a matter of fact, for that playlist. In fact, what she says is when she was looking through my Spotify and saw that I had a playlist called KMGL, which is filled with songs I've heard on KMGL, she told me I should kick my own ass for that. It's my
Did you guys
lovely wife.
Did you guys ever curse on your News OK podcasts?
Very little.
Maybe some asses and hells and dams.
Just occasionally. You got
nothing worse than that, or did you
nothing
do worse
worse
than
that? No, nothing
no
worse.
shit.
No. Am I allowed to say that on this podcast?
I don't know. We've never cussed on the podcast before, but it's my podcast, so I guess I can do what I want. Just don't go too far.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm sure there's a lot of stuff you're just like, what the hell is this? But
yeah.
So Counting Crows, because this is. Have you ever listened? When's the last time you listened to a record?
I don't know that I ever have.
That you ever have in your entire life?
No.
Wow.
No, I really don't think I have. My parents have.
Do you even have CDs?
Yeah.
But like really old ones?
Yeah, I have actually in the backseat of my car, I have a CD
container.
Yeah. That I looked through recently, and it's just a bunch of
stuff
that I was into when I was 17.
So you've been pretty much iPod for 10 plus years.
Yeah.
Or streaming.
Yeah.
This is going to be interesting. I'll be interested to get your thoughts if you think it sounds that much different.
Yeah, well, I'm interested to see how different it sounds because you've raved about it for as long as I've known you.
I don't know raved is the right word. I try and downplay this whole thing because everybody wants to make such a, Carey's is vinyl.
Hey, you
freak.
were quoted in a Tulsa World story about vinyl.
That's because Jimmy Trammell called me. What do you want me to do? It's like the time when... I don't want to get into it. I get in so much trouble.
You have a Lord album on here?
Yeah.
Wow.
I like Lord.
I just wouldn't have expected that.
I got a lot of... I mean, have you seen how much rap is in there?
Yeah, I don't know why Lord surprised me, but
I'm hip, dude.
I'm not criticizing.
I will tell you what, all my new stuff that you don't notice it's probably because it's like it's hipster folk stuff.
Yeah,
like variations of Mumford and Sons.
Yeah, I don't like them.
You don't like Mumford?
No.
You're not into any of the folk stuff?
No, not really.
You don't like bands that look like they should be playing in the bowels of the Titanic?
No, not a fan. That's just
I get it. Trust me.
Yeah, and I just reached Mumford and Sons on
there's a lot in there, unfortunately. Kings of Leon at all?
I like them. NWA, man. Wow. I had that CD.
Okay.
So
I think every white guy has that CD.
I think it thought
it's I
thought that it made me like cool or something.
Yeah, it's your way of saying I'm a little street. I understand you.
Yeah.
Like I have an attitude, although I'm Caucasian.
I remember one time, I can't remember what the circumstance was, but my dad had to take my truck somewhere when I was 16.
You left that in there?
I left it in, and I had it turned up really loud. Ooh. And I think it was on Gangsta.
Uh-huh.
See, I'm so white.
I can't do it.
And so he was concerned.
All right, you're looking through that. We're going to take a break. We're going to go listen to some vinyl. We're going to come back because I really want to get into kind of the nuts and bolts of what you do, what you've done at the Oklahoman. Talk a little bit about Bob Stoops with you. Just beat stuff. Not just things I think fans, not trying to get too inside journalism, but stuff that fans might appreciate. I really want to talk to you about like Twitter and your relationship with the fans there. Because I can be an awful person on Twitter, and I think sometimes I do it just because I know other guys on the beat appreciate it and their bosses won't let them do it.
Yeah,
because I'm my own boss for the most part. I mean, I guess I could get fired from the radio station, but that's the thing too. Like people are always like, "I'm going to tell your radio station." I'm like, my radio station loves it when I'm controversial. I mean, I work at the same station that Traber works at. What am I going to do that's so bad?
You got to get him back on Twitter, man.
I have a plan. I'll just tell you that. All right, so let's take a break, and not that you will notice, but it's going to be like...
Purple Rain. We got to listen to Purple Rain.
Okay, Purple Rain. I'll put that on the list. I've got two different versions, so I've got a really good version. It's going to be kind of like when you watch a cooking show, and they put it in the oven, and then they magically pull it out, and it's been in there for an hour.
Yeah.
That's what this break is going to be like. So, all right, let's go listen to some vinyl. We'll come back. All right, so we are back. The magic of time shifting. We just had our vinyl listening session.
It's very impressive.
You're just saying that.
No, I'm not. It was.
Heard a little Counting Crows. I introduced you to Pete Yorn, which I think I've converted someone to a Pete Yorn fan. Maybe
I've added him on Spotify. So
all right, well. I don't want to keep droning on and on about vinyl because people will get really pissed or they'll just have stopped listening by now. But I wanted to talk a little bit just about, your time here in Norman, in Oklahoma. I mean, before you were on the OU beat, you were on the high school beat for the Oklahoman. Mm-hmm. Noble High grad, proud Noble High grad.
Very proud, yes.
Now, how many years did you do high school coverage before you became an OU beat writer?
Full time, I only did high school coverage for a year.
Okay,
actually, and I planned on actually being on the high school beat for a lot longer, but Travis Haney's short stay necessitated another OU beat writer hire. So,
well, and I mean that was kind of, I don't know, I wasn't on the inside, but it seemed from the outside like that was a little bit of a blessing for you because George Schroeder, he was the first beat writer that was here when I started, and then he went on to Oregon, and Jake Trotter comes in. He goes to ESPN. Susie Kuzidum came in as a student. I think that was her first job, wasn't it, at the Oklahoman?
Mm-hmm.
And that didn't work out, so they bring in Travis Haney, who I think he does a good job. I used to be ESPN Insider. I'm not anymore, so I don't get to read his stuff very often. I need to resubscribe to that. But it was it seemed to me like the Oklahoman was getting sick of going through all these talent searches to bring people in only to have them not work out or be short-lived. And did you feel like that created a better opportunity for you to get that job?
Yeah, I think so. I think so. Because whenever Travis left, that was also when they moved Mike Baldwin off, because him and Baldwin worked together. So there were basically 2 openings.
Okay,
So they moved me up, and then they hired Stephanie.
Right, and she was the number 2.
Yeah.
And then now, last year, you and Ryan Aber moved up after Stephanie.
Yeah, for the last 3, I was on the OU beat for 4 years, and the last 3 it was with Aber.
Okay, so 4 years on the OU beat for you. Seems like it was longer.
Yeah,
to be
really
honest
does.
with you. Let me just ask you. Just overall, from what it was going in, what you thought it would be. You're in the office, you can hear what it's like, what people's frustrations are day to day. But were you prepared for it, or were there things that surprised you about the OU beat?
Oh, it was definitely a surprise. Because you go from, and I knew, like you said, I knew from listening to Jake and Travis and everybody talk about it, I knew that it was going to be a challenge. And I also knew from watching the way that they, the demand that you alluded to earlier, I knew that was going to be tough, but I still don't think there's any preparing for it. And especially when you go from high schools where you show up, if you show up at Edmond North on a Friday night, that's a big damn deal to them,
Yeah.
Like that they're so excited you're there. They will do anything.
Yeah, the Oklahoman comes around, they roll out the red carpet.
Yeah, and then you show up down there and you're just one of a crowd, and it's, and the access isn't what we would like it to be, and you don't always feel welcome.
Yeah.
So it was that was maybe the weirdest transition. And I think that's why it didn't bother me so much when during the off season, the last 4 years, I would have to go do high school basketball state tournaments, because it was kind of cool to be back into that.
I'll tell you this, I'd been going out to Thunder practices recently, and you hear all this stuff about, the Thunder, you know from being at the Oklahoman, it's not ideal there either. You can't just get a one-on-one with Kevin Durant or Russell Westbrook. There was an article, I think, in Bleacher Report or Grantland that really blasted them.
Yeah.
And since then, I guess things have loosened up, but it was strange to me. They are more welcoming and make you feel like, oh, we're so glad that you came out today. That never happens at OU. And I'm not saying that, Mike Houck hasn't changed things around and things like that. But you were 1 year under Kenny when he was Kenny Mossman?
No,
it was Pete Morris from the moment you got there.
Yes.
Our favorite ever sports information director.
Yeah. Yeah.
He could end up at Arkansas someday, so maybe we shouldn't.
I better watch what I say.
I don't think Jeff Long will make that mistake.
Yeah.
I think he has too many people that he knows from OU that would never, anyway.
Yeah.
You might be covering a Virginia Tech game, so.
Yeah, I don't think Virginia Tech's on their schedule anytime.
Bowl game, though, maybe.
Yeah. But having said all that,
yeah. What we're alluding to, Jason doesn't have to say, there was a time when OU brought in an outsider, sports information director. We thought that they should have given the job to Mike Houck, who is now the sports information director, because Kenny Mossman, who did a great job, was there for a long time, was there, since I started in 99, and he moved up into the athletic department as an associate athletic director. So they brought in Pete Morris, and it was a disaster. And, it was people being mad at everybody every day, access getting less and less, and it got ugly. And so they got rid of him and brought in Mike Houck, which I think you would admit, is probably the best year you spent this last year.
Yeah, no, and if for nothing else, Mike dealt with the same, I know that a lot of it comes from Bob, and I recognize that. A lot of the things that we don't like, but Mike, I felt like would fight fight back, would push back a little bit, and really make the case for certain things that I wouldn't have gotten previously. You know, one-on-ones with guys for feature stories I was doing, whatever. And I assume your experience has been pretty similar.
In
that regard.
Well, what also I think is more interesting is the coaching staff is a lot more accommodating now than when it was, when Josh Heupel was terrible with the media. I mean, and I've heard the people at Mizzou that we work with, and he's not making any friends up there either. So that was a struggle all the time. And Lincoln Riley couldn't be cool.
Oh, I mean, Lincoln Riley called me to congratulate me on my new job. I mean, that's the sort of thing that just felt different about this year.
Yeah.
It was a lot more. There was better professional relationships, I thought, between.
It's interesting because I think Bob Stoops has softened over the years, and I don't know how much you felt that being on the beat for 4 years, but I guess I'm curious just kind of what your thoughts were dealing with Bob, your interactions.
Well, it was totally intimidating the first year. I mean,
it is. He wants it to be. I think
it was totally intimidating.
I mean, everybody I can think of, like Jake Trotter, like he treated him like crap for a while. I mean, and he does it. It's like the Oklahoman thing, like the new guy for the Oklahoman. I mean, Stephanie had a really rough patch when she was here, and I think that probably affected her moving forward. But Travis was probably lucky that he was kind of a guy. He kind of knew to keep his head down, I thought. But man, George had some epic battles with Bob over the years. Yeah.
I mean, it was, so the first year was totally intimidating. And I think you told me after the first year that you'll start to see it get a little better. And I did. After the first year, it got better. I mean, the thing that I appreciate about Bob that I don't think people realize is, he can be a jerk sometimes in press conferences. And I've had so many people ask me, like, how in the world do you deal with that? That must be, but I mean, it's just not that bad. And what I appreciate about him is that when he didn't like something you wrote, he would tell you.
Yeah. He'll take issue with you face to face.
Yeah.
Or on the phone.
I mean, he's called me about things, or he would pull me aside about things after practice or whatever and sort of tell me what he thinks, and I tell him what I think, and then it would sort of go away after that. There were never any grudges.
Yeah.
It wasn't like the next time I asked a question at a press conference after one of those things.
There may have been grudges, but not between you and Bob.
Yeah. I mean, it was just it never seemed like a big deal.
Well, and I think the thing, I've always said this, the thing that I appreciate about Bob is that you always know where you stand. Like, he's very genuine. He's not the type of guy that's going to go behind your back and do things to you to prevent you from having the access that he gives everybody.
Right. Yeah. I mean, there's sort of,
and when he is pissed, you see it. Like he's hard to deal with, but you're just like, okay, he's having that day. He doesn't want to do media.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you're not happy about it, but you deal with it, and that's really all you can ask for.
And a lot of times, the next day or the next week, it'll be a lot better. But I mean, I thought that sometimes those Wednesday things were, those were, I don't know what you thought about those over the last 4 years, but for me, the Wednesday when he would do just the beat guys, no cameras, they're great most of the time, but there would be some that just, I felt like we weren't going to get anything out of him, or he was upset about something, or
that tends to happen, or he just didn't like the line of questions, or sometimes like Tram would come and he would want to do something national and he wouldn't want to talk national. He just want to talk local. So
but most of the time the Wednesday things were great, and that was kind of an example, I think, of him understanding that we have, that we've got jobs to do.
And that's true of Bob. Like I find, I mean, it's always one of those things. Like I think the worst thing you can ever do for Bob is try to speak for him, because like I can't. It's only happened a few times, but he will pull me to the side and say, "Hey, don't speak for me on things like." I remember there was something about compliance one time, and he let it simmer all through summer, and I think I said something like, "Compliance makes it tough for OU to do their job, and it wouldn't surprise me if it ended up chasing Bob off or something like that." He got really mad. Like he waited until
was it something you wrote
or said on the radio. I can't remember. I think it's hard. It's hard to remember. I'm so old now. But like he waited until Big 12 Media Days, and as soon as he came up the escalator, he was like, Kurt. And he like pulled me to the side and he told me not to speak for him. And it was just like, you just have to go through that stuff every once in a while with him.
My favorite one was it was right before signing day in 2014. So they just won the Sugar Bowl. So they'd gotten the commitment from Mixon, and the recruiting was starting to sort of take off. And I wrote something that basically just said that, firing the 3 assistant coaches the year before was really hard for him, but it was the right thing to do, obviously, because Montgomery and Bedenbow and Boulware had been doing so well, whatever. And he really took issue with that story, which I thought was kind of weird because it was a complimentary story. Mm-hmm. But the thing that really bothered him was he didn't like that I said that he fired them.
Yeah.
Because he'd never said or acknowledged that. It had always just been in press releases and all that. It had always just been that they'd moved on.
Yeah.
When everybody knew what had happened. And he didn't appreciate that I used the word fired. I mean, those are the little things that sometimes are frustrating for us, but that's just how he is.
Yeah, it's just the way it's going to be.
Yeah.
And I was kind of the same way. Like, I tiptoed around it because I think he's been loyal to a fault, and it's hard. It's when you know that someone takes it that personally, it's like, well, you really need to dig the knife in almost.
Yeah.
But, I mean, you work for the Oklahoman, you got to say stuff like that. I mean, because that's the truth.
Yeah.
So.
And now, after Heupel and Norvell, I mean, that was so clearly what a firing that, I never heard anything from him about that.
Yeah.
I mean, he held a press conference to say that. So
let me ask you, it's a weird job because people don't see like what you're talking about. Like you have relationships that you're balancing between being objective and writing things that need to be written. You have that on the coaching side. Then you have the fan side where you really can't win sometimes with the fans either. And Twitter has just changed so much for people to be able to publicly express their opinions about things. When I think back in the day when people could email you, it was much more civil. And even today when people email, not that it happens as much for me anymore, but it seems like those well, I say that. I think we both shared emails to each other that have just been horrid over the years.
Yeah.
Which are fun to do. That's kind of how you deal with it. Like you just show the other guys on the beat. Like when someone is sending you something ridiculous and telling you that you're trying to bring down the program and stuff like that, you always just kind of have to. It's like a shoulder to lean on in a way.
Yeah.
I mean, and you can share that with each other and laugh about it. But to me, emails were always more pleasant. Like people would be a little not just they'd be less horrible. Is the way to put it. But Twitter is one of those things where I think it makes your job, I don't know, harder is the right word, but it makes your job more frustrating.
Yeah. Well, there were instances, moments that I'm not even sure I need to say what I'm talking about. Certain incident involving a certain running back. That whole situation through the months that was going on. I mean, there were days when I just had to stay off Twitter completely. Yeah. And because otherwise it was just going to depress me almost,
By the way, you have to love the fact that you're leaving right now. Like
I don't hate it.
You have to relish the fact that you didn't have to write 3 articles on Joe Mixon in the last 2 days.
Oh yeah, no, and in fact yesterday, so we're talking on Thursday. It was Wednesday when the state Supreme Court, whatever. So when I saw that pop through on Twitter, the first thing I did was call Aber, and I was like, man, I'm really sorry.
Well, and I did something which I do. It's I torture myself, which I took a emoji of a dead guy with a gun to his face, which could be interpreted in a number of ways. I realized after it. So I had some people that were like celebrating, like, yeah, they're on a Mixon lynching and this and that, and I was just like, no, that's not what I mean.
Yeah,
it's like I mean what I mean is God, I really don't want to deal with this anymore. Like, and it's such a stupid thing because there's nothing that's going to result out of what happened Wednesday.
No.
It's just going to cause people to fight about whether he should be on the team, whether he's a woman beater, whether she did something, whether, to provoke him. I'm so sick of, I think we're all sick of that.
Oh, yeah. I was sick of it.
We've been sick of it for a long time.
We've been sick of it for a long time. That's the thing I think that's really misunderstood. This idea that we are out to get him or we are relishing.
We just don't want to deal with it.
But we have to.
Yeah.
There's no way to avoid it.
And when you deal with it, it results in fan backlash or just fan conversation or fans coming after you. And they don't understand, like, we don't want to be talking about this any more than you don't want us to be talking about it.
Yeah. I mean, it's a thing. And I think the other thing that gets lost in all of it is the between the people who say leave him alone, he did his time. Of course he did, and we all admit that. Like, none of us are calling for him to be kicked off the team. But this video is no longer about him. It's about the government deciding what is public and what isn't. That's what this is about today. It has nothing to do with really even with Joe Mixon anymore.
Well,
and
it's one of those
I wish
things
people would understand that, or at least try to stop and think about it and understand that it's the same reason that people want Hillary Clinton's emails released.
Yeah.
Or, it's the same thing.
It's one of those things that people don't understand the value in it if it's something that they care about. Like, they don't want it to be uncovered. But if it were like a government issue and they were, paying too much on their taxes or something, and they found out through open records that, they were being cheated out of money, then, they'd be like, why can't we have this law? Why can't we find out information that, any citizen should know? So it's one of those things, like, I can't have that discussion on my website because it devolves into a he said, she said thing between Joe Mixon. I mean, it just turns into, well, you're trying to take away my football player. No, that's not what's going on.
And people, I think, also really misunderstood, or the other thing that was really tough was the Orange Bowl Media Day thing, because that wasn't fun for any of us. That wasn't fun for any of us. And it was mishandled by some people in the media, I think, that came at him a little bit too aggressively. I mean, that was a mess. That was a complete debacle on all counts. So none of us enjoyed any aspect of this story.
Well, I remember you and I were standing there, and you're like, it's our one day to be able to get people that we haven't been able to talk to all year.
Oh, yeah.
And we're both having to waste time on Joe Mixon stuff, which none of our readers really want to hear. None of the beat readers want to, the OU fans don't really want to read that as much as they want to read about, something from a player that they haven't heard from all year that, like a Devontae Lampkin or something like that. I mean, so it's the one chance we get to talk to anybody we want to, and we have to waste time, an hour session, we have to waste 15 minutes talking to Joe Mixon when it's not going anywhere.
Yeah, exactly.
So, I didn't want to get too much into that, but I figured it might be a good topic before you get out of here.
But I mean, but that was just my example of when it comes to things on Twitter that can get out of hand. And then the other thing that doesn't help me is I tend to express political beliefs on Twitter, and the readers don't always appreciate it. Hashtag stick to sports.
Well, you know what color state you live in, though.
I know. And I know what color state I'm going to live in next, and it's it'll be the same thing. Was it that
someone sent you an email about the political affiliation of the state you're going to, about Arkansas?
Yeah, they said that since I'm going to the SEC, it's a land of great Americans and conservatives, so I better tone it down.
Well, and it's, I saw, I think it was Andy Staples said this the other day, and it was it was really interesting to me. He said, why do people tell you to shut up and just talk sports? And it's because I think fans legitimately do care about you and what you do and what you provide.
Yeah.
To the point that they feel like they identify with you and you are just like them. And when you kind of take down that fourth wall and they see, oh, well, he has liberal leanings and, you know, he doesn't hate gay people or, you know, it's like they get upset because it's like everything they know has been shattered.
Yeah. Well, that was an interesting.
But he basically said, I mean, what Andy Staples said was, well, it's because people find out that they think that you're just like they are, but then when you talk about things other than sports, they find out you're not. It's disturbing.
Yeah. And that's true. I'm sure that's true. And what I've tried to tell, I've mainly stuck to a couple of issues political wise. I haven't really tried to get too much into the weeds on a lot of things, but like education, my whole family are teachers.
Right.
So for that's personal for me, you know.
And for people that aren't in Oklahoma, it's a disaster right now.
Yeah. And you know, the few things I've said about like gay rights, I mean, I have gay friends. Like those are personal issues for me, but I've tried not to talk about tax policy or anything like that. I would
block you if you did that.
If I tried to do that, I would sound like a fool. So I don't.
One more thing I wanted to get into, kind of, you know, 4 years at the Oklahoman, everybody every, you know, main beat writer that's been there kind of has their legacy. I mean, for George, he was kind of known as a guy that got under Bob's skin a little bit, but also did some really good reporting. Jason White's knee injury. You know, you look at Jake Trotter, and he worked really hard. The funny story we tell about him is when OU was at the Fiesta Bowl and DeMarcus Granger got popped for shoplifting, and it was during media day. You know, the day that you get the most work done, and he had to spend his whole day at Burlington Coat Factory. And I mean, that's like, we still give him crap about that. But I mean, is there something that you feel like, I mean, I think about, you know, the work you did with Eric Stryker. Is there something that you feel like is kind of your legacy at the Oklahoman?
Man, it's kind of hard to say. I don't know. I guess I would have to defer to someone else on that. Yeah. Because it's a little bit weird to think about. But I mean, the Stryker stuff was I mean, it was an amazing situation, getting that one-on-one with him.
Yeah. And can we tell that story, just kind of how it went down? Because, I mean, the SAE stuff happened, the strike was going on, and you got a phone call from Stryker?
Yeah, so I was, that video, I think it came out on like a Sunday evening, early evening. I was in Dallas at the Big 12 women's basketball tournament. And OU had just gotten beat, so I was writing that story. And I was going to come back the next day anyway. But so I saw that like the video had come out, but I didn't pay a whole lot of attention to it. I didn't exactly even know what it was. And I was going to meet some family for dinner at Campese's, and I got there and I was sitting there eating dinner when the phone rang. And, you know, I had never talked to him on the phone before, so I didn't know that it was him. I just saw a Florida number pop up on my phone, and he sort of told me what had happened. I think this was after he'd done the Snapchat thing, and after he'd probably realized he shouldn't have done the Snapchat thing. And I think in his mind he thought, well, I want to say some things, but I need to find a better way to do it. And
it's so weird, by the way, that he's like Snapchat only.
Yeah, like he's on Instagram now.
Is he on Instagram?
But
not
Twitter, not Twitter or Facebook. I don't think.
Maybe he knows it's a good thing. I don't know.
Yeah. There are days.
So I'm sorry, I'm interrupting, but
no. But I guess what had happened, he had really liked a story that I'd written the previous summer about his mom. Mm-hmm. I wrote a story about his mom because she was in her 40s and living, you know, finally pursuing her dream of going to law school all these years later. And I wrote that story, and he really liked it. And so that's, I guess, the reason that he called his mom and asked her if she had my number.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, he said, I've got some things I want to say, and I'm wondering if we can get together, you know. And I said, yeah, you know, absolutely. And in my head, though, I'm thinking, in fact, I think I told him, I said, don't tell anybody at OU that you're doing this because they're going to stop it.
Yeah.
And he was like, oh, no, I won't. And so the whole so I woke up about 7:00 the next morning to drive back. I was supposed to meet with him, I think, at 11. And the whole way up there, I'm just thinking, God, what if he told someone? What if
he alerted somebody in the information department or something?
Or
is that story going to end up on Soonersports.com by the time I get home?
Exactly. Yeah, that's all the things that were sort of running through my head. And I called him about every hour. Let's see, that's about a 3-hour drive. So I'd say I called him about an hour and a half in, just to check and make sure we're still on, and we were, and we met in the OU library, and it was really profound, and I mean there's not gonna be another guy like him probably that I cover for a long time, I would imagine, and yeah, it went really well, and again then after that the whole day I'm thinking, then I think I called his mom for that story. And she had told me, CNN wants him to come on. And I'm thinking, damn it. Like, if he goes on CNN before
this was before the story had run?
Yeah. But as it turned out, my story posted, and I think it was about an hour later that he went on CNN. So I still had a little bit of an edge there. But, I mean, it was amazing. And it was one of those things that part of it was sort of luck, I guess. But the relationship that I had with him, and also I thought it was so impressive that he had the thought to call a reporter. I mean, so few of these guys think that way.
Yeah,
as you know.
It's a very mature way to look at things. Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, it was great. It was good stuff. I was happy for you. It's so hard nowadays to get exclusives or to be able to write features, or even to get a one-on-one sometimes with people, unless you want to just. As a beat writer, I mean, that's the hardest thing, because you've got a job to do, which is to cover a full day, and they herd in 5 people at one time.
Yeah.
And you have to miss 4 people if you really want to concentrate on one guy to get a feature. So
yeah,
people don't understand that. That's probably a little too inside beat writer, but
yeah, I mean, especially not only was it a one-on-one with Eric Stryker, it was an hour. Like that's unheard of.
Yeah.
I mean, he sat there for an hour with me. So I mean. Nothing like that ever happened again or before.
When that happens for you, do you go back to the office and say, I've got an hour interview, I need help transcribing this? Or
no,
do you just do it on your own?
I did it on my own that day because I had time.
Okay.
So when I got back after the interview, I just went home and started transcribing. And at the very end of that interview, after the recorder was off, he had hinted that they weren't going to practice that day. Mm-hmm. But he didn't just say it. And so that's when I thought something might happen, and then they did the protest thing where they walked through.
Of all the that's in all my years, that's one of the strangest things I can ever. That might be the strangest thing that ever happens at Oklahoma.
Yeah,
you were here for something I don't think we'll ever see again.
Yeah, yeah, it was, and yeah. So I went home, I transcribed the whole thing and called up to the office and said, so I got something that we're going to want. So
let me ask you, if the way things are, or they were, is there anything that the way things worked with media and OU that you would have liked to been able to do more of, other than one-on-ones with guys like that with Eric Stryker? I mean, are you a guy that would have liked to been able to go to scrimmage and watched it?
I think I would have been okay with going to scrimmages. I would have liked that.
Yeah.
Practices, not so
that
much.
Sucks, man.
And yeah, well, no, and I think it's because you've told me that.
It's cool going to scrimmages. When you go to practice every day and see the same drills, like, it sucks, man, because you have to be there and nothing ever changes, and it's just wasting your day.
Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, I think I would have liked to have gone to scrimmages and then, and more opportunities for big features, things like that, where, I've always said that they could easily make Wednesday or Thursday the day that you can request to have
some one-on-one stuff for the main beat guys.
Yeah. I think that'd be pretty cool if they could do something like that and give you a little more time. I mean, during the conference championship week this last year, so it was OU had beaten OSU, and then they were off the next week. And this is another example of Houck being really, really cool to deal with a lot of times. I mean, I asked him for a one-on-one with P. Ryan because P. Ryan, you remember last year, was so weird about coming in and didn't ever want to come in. And so I asked if he would do a one-on-one to talk about that. And he did, and it was great. And I had about 20 minutes with him.
Yeah.
I mean, those are the kinds of things I wish they'd do more of for the people that cover the beat every day.
Yeah.
You know?
What, let me ask you this, just about covering a team in general. I mean, it's changed so much since I've started. You know, it used to be, I think I've told you this before, I loved being able to write a really good news and notes and post that, and have people, you know, take that in and they're like, oh, that's so much information. It's so cool. But now anytime that something's a note, it gets plastered on the internet before you can even get home sometimes.
Yeah.
I mean, where do you think it's changed the most for you since you got into this business, and what's been the thing that you like the least, I guess?
Where's it changed? I mean, I've sort of always been in it in the Twitter era, so I don't know exactly if it's changed a ton since I've been on it, but it is frustrating, you know, when you're in a small group and someone says something that you know is going to be news and you want to rush home and get it written up, but then someone else in the group just tweets it out, you know? Like those kinds of things. Yeah, we used to have
discussions about that stuff, like
we've had discussions.
Yeah, I mean,
that.
like I remember when this started when Trotter was on the beat for the Oklahoman, like, because it would be like maybe 5 to 6 people there every day, and maybe I would come with news that I knew somebody was hurt, and so I would ask, you know, is so and so hurt? And if it wasn't for me asking, it wouldn't be out there. Yet I'm asking the question. I'm getting an answer from like Bob Stoops. He's talking directly to me, and I can look around and everybody else is on their phones tweeting this out. And I'm like, that's not fair. Like,
no, it's not.
I was the one who brought it to the table.
And you can't, as he's talking to you, be doing this.
Yeah, you cannot get into your phone. That's so disrespectful while he's talking to you and giving you. But I think that's kind of one of those things. Like, we've been a pretty good beat, I think, in kind of policing that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I would agree.
I've been a jerk sometimes to kids. I have a reputation for yelling at people.
You've never been a jerk to me. I don't know if that's because I didn't deserve it.
Because you weren't an idiot. No, it's kind of one of those things. I went through that. There was a guy named Mike Jones that worked at the Fort Worth Star-Telegram. He used to refer to me as the Internet F. Like, he would call me the Internet F to my face, and I'm not.
But he didn't say F.
No, he said the 4-letter word that began with F. So, like, he's retired now, and he should have been, because he had 3 feet out the door by the time I started. But it's just, and I try not to be like, I try to be understanding of that kind of stuff, because I remember when I was once the guy that everybody hated. Like, I was that internet jerk that was ruining, journalism. And so now I feel so old, and I'm like, these stupid kids at the Daily, and I yelled at one of them last year. You need the curmudgeon on the beat. You just do.
No, it was great. I had a great experience with you guys, and I said it in the thing I wrote when I announced I was leaving, and I meant it. Like, you guys were great to me the whole time, and that made it so much easier, because not only was Stoops intimidating, but sort of intimidating to walk into that press conference room the first time. Yeah. Surrounded by people who know everything, know people, and they, and sort of have to find a way to wedge yourself in.
Asking Bob, I'm telling you, on a live public press conference, asking Bob a question is probably one of the hardest things to do for a young journalist.
Yeah, it is.
And because if you ask a bad question, I can tell you this, the morning animals are going to play it in the morning and make fun of it.
And they should. And they rightly should. But yeah, I mean, it's hard. And it's especially hard when you're new and so.
Well, man, I have always appreciated you, just knowing where you kind of came from, that you're an Oklahoma guy, that, you worked your way up from high school. I was so happy when you got the job, that they hired from within and didn't go, the worldwide talent search again. And we'll miss you. I'll miss you on the beat. But just real quick, tell people what you're going to be doing, kind of what you're looking forward to now here in the next phase of your career.
Yeah, it's kind of a new website, seccountry.com. It's in affiliation with the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, and I'll be covering Arkansas. Basically doing the same job I did here, except, obviously a little bit different because there's not a print product to go with it, really. I mean, I think it would have to be pretty big news for anything I write about Arkansas to appear in the AJC. But, so we're moving to Fayetteville, and it's an adventure. I mean, I've lived, Noble, Norman my whole life, so it's a little bit scary, but I'm excited about it. I'm excited to try something different and experience a new area, live in a new area.
How's Buster feel about it?
Oh, he'll be fine. Buster
is his dog, his Green Bay loving dog. Even though he has no free will of his own, he wears a Packers jersey all the time. Is it only on game days, or you put the jersey on him on other days too?
No, it's game days. Okay. It's game days, and the first time we had the jersey, I put it on him, and the Packers were beating the Seahawks, and then my wife Annie wanted to take him on a walk, and I said, all right, that's fine, but you have to leave the jersey on. And she said, that's so stupid, and she took it off. And by the time they got back from the walk, they were losing, and they lost the game. So,
did you put the jersey back on when he got home?
Yeah, but I think the magic goes away when it comes off. So now she knows that even when I'm on the road,
she puts the jersy on him when you're on the road.
I call her. I'm like, you got to put the jersey on him. So,
but there have been losses with the jersey on.
Yeah, there have. But it's guaranteed to be a loss when he's not wearing it, is what I'm saying.
Oh, okay.
It's ridiculous.
Any local joints you're really going to miss?
Oh,
being able to go eat somewhere or anything?
Well, Kendall's and Noble.
Yeah.
Have you been there?
I've heard very good things.
We should go there before I leave.
We'll do it.
Chicken fried steak, man.
Oh, I love some chicken fried steak.
It's the best.
Fat man loves his fried stuff.
I love Tarahumara's, and Garen Emig gives me a hard time about that.
I'm telling you, Norman has some real. I was talking about this on Twitter the other day. Tarahumara's, Tulio's, Mama Vach's, those are all good, man. Norman has some good Mexican.
Chilino's is good, although it's not local, I guess. There's other ones. But you don't like Chilino's?
No, too much onions and everything.
Okay.
They put onions in everything.
Fair enough. It's like my brother says that Sonic, every time they come out with something new, it's just they've added chili to it. So it's like he's waiting for the chili milkshake.
The chili cheeseburger is pretty stomachable there. I'll tell you that. Man, it's been a pleasure. I'm glad you finally got to. We won't talk about how much of a disaster my house is, but appreciate you coming over to the War Zone, hanging out, listening to some vinyl. Finally, you have some Pete Yorn to listen to on the road trips now.
Yes, I'll look forward to that.
I will still be your friend on Twitter.
Good. I was worried about that.
Yeah, I bet. And I'll be reading all your stuff, and I'll let Trey Biddy at Rivals know that you're coming to kick his ass.
All right. Very good.
That's Jason Kersey, formerly the Oklahoman. Now, is it just SEC country, or are you like Arkansas weareawesome.com or something like that?
It's just SEC country.
I would be offended if you were like ArkansasScoop.com.
No, Hog Scoop.
Yeah. That's what it would have to be.
Maybe I'll suggest that. Then you'd unfollow me.
No, I wouldn't. All right, Jason, man, we really appreciate it. We're really going to miss you, and I hope the fans really got a chance to kind of. I hope they enjoyed getting to hear from you as well, just a little bit about what it was like to be a beat writer at OU.
Well, thanks a lot. I appreciate it. I enjoyed it.
All right, that's going to do it for this edition of whatever we're going to call this show, one-on-one. I don't know. So until next time, I'm Kerry Murdoch for Soonerscoop.com. We'll see you then.